Hi, and welcome to Dire Consequences. I'm Claire Dyer, and you're watching Unprecedented TV, the channel that tells you the stories the mainstream media won't, cuts through the censorship, and gives a platform to voices that have been ignored, smeared, or deliberately silenced. On today's episode, I'm joined by someone who took part in direct action against ULEZ, something I know all about, including the blocking of the camera vans, but was unfortunately arrested and was ultimately found guilty of damaging a ULEZ camera. According to the dominant narrative, that makes them a criminal, a danger to society, someone outside the bounds of respectable protest. But narratives are powerful things, especially when they're repeated often enough by the media, politicians, and institutions with something to protect. We're constantly told that ULEZ enforcement and private security, the ULEZ security thugs, as we know them as, are simply upstanding members of the community just doing their job, while those who oppose ULEZ, like myself, are portrayed as reckless, aggressive, or extreme. So tonight, we're going to interrogate that framing. Who decides what counts as lawful, moral, or justified? Who gets labelled a threat and who never does? This isn't about glorifying destruction or pretending actions don't have consequences. It's about understanding why people reach breaking point, what leads ordinary individuals to resist, and whether the story we're being sold about ULEZ and those who oppose it actually holds up under scrutiny. So I'd like to welcome today Phil, known as Fan Hunter.
Good evening, Claire.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. We're going to be talking about probably one of my most favourite subjects. And I'm sure, ULEZ, the dreaded ULEZ, or what is the scam is ULEZ, and what we all absolutely hate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And obviously our paths have crossed over the course of time with protests back in the day. Obviously, there haven't been protests for actual, high profile protests for some time. But you have a story in your for yourself, don't you, that you want to get out there as far as you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me how it started for you. I'm sure ours will be similar.
It started for me when I lost 90% of my business through the first ULEZ expansion, when they expanded it out to the North and South Circular. I was doing property maintenance in Kensington and Chelsea. And when they expanded it, because I didn't have a ULEZ compliant vehicle, I lost 90% of my business. So I started a workshop-based business in Northwood. And then lo and behold, they expanded it out to Northwood. So I lost that as well.
And I think, like you, that happened to a lot of people, and they're the people that they don't want you to know about or to talk about, and the hardships that people actually did generally go through. Your vehicle wasn't compliant, was it?
No, it wasn't compliant. And, for the sort of 3-month run up to the ULEZ being expanded, vehicle prices just went sky high. I couldn't afford a ULEZ compliant vehicle. The price had trebled. And, I'd spent all my money setting up a workshop, and I just couldn't afford it. I lost, I had customers refusing to use me because I didn't have a ULEZ compliant vehicle because they didn't want to pay my ULEZ fines. So, it just destroyed my business.
I heard that happen to a lot of people, especially those who would say delivery drivers for independent businesses. They were having to put the ULEZ on top of their delivery charge. So delivery charge going up, and customers didn't like that. They didn't want to pay the extra charges. No. And yet for a lot of small businesses, just that extra cost per day was just financially too much to be able to survive. And people don't realise that, because I think when you say £12.50, you don't really think of it as being that much. But when you times that by 5 or even 7 times a week, 365 days a year, that's a lot of money. And people can see, obviously, that was the original Les. and then in the pink was where they expanded out to. And right at the bottom of the map, you can see where I am, and you're just
Top
above
left.
the bridge, aren't you?
Yeah, top left.
Yeah. So, well, also what a lot of people don't realise, because we come under Greater London, they think of London as being a city, like the centre of London, when actually I know kind of where you are, and a lot of Greater London, especially for me, we're surrounded by countryside and farmland and country lanes, and people don't realise that. So obviously, like many, and obviously for you, it made it impossible for you, really.
I mean, I live on a farm, Claire, right on the edge of the ULEZ zone. But I mean, even to get just under a mile to my local shop would have cost me £12.50.
Yeah,
that's even if I, buying a pint of milk was £12.50 before I even paid for the milk.
Yeah, that's just daylight robbery, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I know a lot of the story because, like you, all of Greater London ended up with the dreaded camera vans, didn't we?
Yes, we did. We did.
I do laugh about it because so many of us have said we actually miss those days.
We do. They were good days. I made some really good friends in the band days.
So why did you decide to go and block the camera vans?
A friend of mine, her mum lived in a block of flats which was primarily for elderly people, and there was an 86-year-old man. 2 or 3 days after ULEZ started, he had to go the 2 miles to a hospital, and he just couldn't afford the £12.50, so he decided he was going to walk to the hospital. And bless him, he collapsed and died on the roundabout outside Northwick Park Hospital, because ULEZ, when it started, it was during the sort of 3 or 4 hottest days we'd had that year. And he died from heat stroke outside the hospital. And when I heard that, that grated on me. And that was when I decided I had to do something. I'd moved to London, and I was going to defend London like my home. I'd made it my home. That's what I was going to do.
And just tell me about this picture here.
That was the first van I ever blocked. I'd got in touch with somebody on Facebook. I'd seen Matt's videos, and this person put me in touch with Matt, and this van appeared about a mile from my home. And I rocked up there on my own, never done it before, stood there with my sign in front of the camera. I didn't even have a stick long enough to stand it on the floor, so I had to hold it up. And I met Matt, and that was the start of my ULEZ journey.
See, I can remember my first van as well, and I can remember hearing that one was literally just around the corner from where I live, and I'd been speaking out for some time anyway, and saying people need to do something. And I'm pacing around my lounge, and I've just found out there's a van down there, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm too scared to go down there. And I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? I can't be telling other people to get up and do something if I'm not prepared to go and do it myself. I've got to put my money where my mouth is. So I go,
that's right. Yeah.
And not expect. I didn't know what to expect. And there's this van there, and there's a couple of guys standing there, and I'm thinking, oh, I don't know, who are these people? And I nearly decided to just walk past and go to the shops. And I thought, no, do not chicken out, because there was no one else there. It was just me.
Yeah.
And I very quickly found out that they had security. And I think that was the first of many lies, because I remember a statement coming out from TfL saying that they only put security on the vans once they'd been vandalised. Yeah, this was right at the very, very beginning. I think it was like day 3 after they had it had been rolled out, August 28th, 29th, wasn't it? 2023.
Yeah.
And there was security already. And I think it was probably the 3rd van that had ever come into Biggin Hill. And I, like you, I had absolutely nothing. I couldn't even block the camera. And I thought, I'm not having this. And I went back to my car, flicked my boot, got this big picnic blanket, and I'm trying to jump up and just throw it over the camera. And someone came along, and I went, put this over the camera. And then they started accusing me of basically criminal damage for a
Yeah.
blanket.
Yeah. The first video I ever saw online of someone blocking a van was the guy in the Grinch outfit. And he climbed up the ladder and he was sat in front of the camera. And that meant so much to me. It was like, yeah, ordinary people can do it, but do I need to hide my face? And I didn't.
And this is obviously what it then progressed to.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had the camera vans, and there are some very memorable moments which I would say.
That apparently is the quickest cut. That one.
And how quick is that?
3 seconds from starting the saw to the camera falling.
Wow. Oh, are we going to watch it again? I mean, back in the day, social media was absolutely flooded with these. It was almost like it was a phenomenon. And, you know, if we mention the vans, you know, there was a narrative created very, very quickly that the people at the vans, like you and me, were dangerous protesters.
Yeah.
You know, and then moving on to, I mean, how did they even get named? Do you know how the Bladerunners got named? Because I don't.
Yeah, I think it was the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail did an article on it, and I think they named Bladerunners. So I think that's where it came from. Yeah,
and then very quickly it just went viral, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I upset the security. Security didn't like me. So my mate James.
Well, we'd almost call him my mate as well, because I think they hated me as much as they hated you. And this was the thing. They, you know, when they're in a professional position, like they were, you know, as security contracted to TfL, claiming to be TfL representatives, the kind of narrative was that, and the programming was that they, you know, they were above board, they were doing a job. But actually we know different, don't we?
Yes, definitely.
I mean, definitely. Some of your experiences with the security, because I know that obviously I was harassed and threatened. And for you?
So, well, one of them created a fake Facebook page so that he could troll people like you and I. And I received a message saying that I was told to tell the guy in the hat that we're coming for him. So, yeah.
Was that sent to you direct via Facebook or something?
No, it was sent to one of the other protesters and they forwarded it on to me. I mean, I was known as the guy with the hat, so, you know, it was pretty obvious who it was. Vitali, he didn't like me. He was on Matt's video threatening, he's saying he wasn't working now. I'm going to come and get you. And, you know, I never hid where I didn't hide. I didn't wear a mask. I didn't hide where I lived. My pickup truck was signed, written. They had my phone number. Nobody ever direct messaged me, but I got messages through the grapevine saying they were coming for me.
I mean, I never liked to use the word protester. I always said campaigner. We had one female campaigner, and they were actually calling her. They were actually outside her house, stalking her in the security cars that accompanied the vans. And the police would do absolutely nothing. And you're talking about Vitali, and he's as one of the security, quite well known.
Yeah.
And he actually seriously assaulted somebody, put them in hospital. And
he assaulted somebody in Harefield as well, and the police were called and nothing was ever done about it.
And even after the police were investigating this, he was still allowed to work on ULEZ as security. And he actually assaulted one of our female blockers as well by pushing her into the road twice.
Yeah.
And the mainstream media don't even want to really know about this. I mean, right at the beginning they did, and they kind of called them ULEZ thugs. But then after that, it was like it just disappeared. It got buried because it didn't suit the narrative.
Yeah, the rules didn't apply to them. You know, the SIA license had to be on display. They never displayed it.
Still don't.
You know, they always used fake names. Occasionally, we found out who they were, their real names, but you know, it was just unbelievable, and they weren't necessary because there was never that threat to anybody there. There was never a threat to anybody that drove the vans. There was never a threat to anybody that installs the cameras. The security were the bugbear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think they antagonized.
yeah,
They definitely escalated situations rather than de-escalating them. And I've always
yeah,
felt that there has and still is a narrative that they want to push
yeah,
because you know, moving on. I mean, you've obviously just recently been found guilty, haven't you, for damaging
yeah,
ULEZ cameras?
yeah.
You want to tell me a bit about that?
I went out and I burnt the lens on a camera. Well, I say the lens, the plastic lens cover. TFL tried to spin it that I destroyed 2 cameras, and they put the value at £16,000, which was enough to send it to Crown Court to get a stiffer sentence, you know. And the prosecutor, I had to sit there and listen to the prosecutor saying, well, that, you know, the minimum sentence for this is 4 months, you know. And it was, and I challenged them to prove the value, and they couldn't do it. First time they doubled down and they said, no, it's £16,000 for 2 cameras. The second time, the judge did say to them, look, you need to provide evidence of this value. And on the third hearing, suddenly the value had changed to £3,000 for 2 cameras. And their excuse was, we'd got the wrong 2 cameras. So I don't understand how 2 cameras at one location could be £16,000, but 2 cameras at another location were £3,000. And the judge in the end said, no, we're going to take the defendant's value of £2,000 worth of damage. And he dealt with it as a magistrate rather than a Crown Court judge.
Do you
and he said that, you know, it could have been dealt with at magistrate 6 months before. We'd had 3 Crown Court hearings, and eventually it was down to £2,000.
And do you think the judge knew? Because I've heard this quite, I mean, I hear this quite a lot because I catch TFL contractors illegally working. They excavate without no permit. It is illegal. They don't have the permission from the council, but because it's TFL, they cannot be fined because they do all the highways. And their excuse every single time to the council is, oh, oops, sorry, it was an error. And that's kind of what they did with the court, wasn't it? They kind of went to the judge and went, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Do you think
they withdrew their original statement? Now, when I say they withdrew it, they completely withdrew it. Even my barrister said to me, it's really odd that they've taken away that original estimate for the value. He said, because he said when barristers get paid, they get paid on sheets of paper. He said, and with that one withdrawn, they won't get paid for that now. And then they replaced it with one that had a lot lower value.
See, bearing in mind that how much is TFL in debt by?
Well, 800 million in unpaid ULEZ fines, and in total they're 13 billion pound in debt. So
anyone could possibly think that maybe TFL are taking advantage of the people that they're cutting cameras, and they're trying to make some money back on it through the courts, because they know how much is one of their cameras.
They say it's the camera itself is 6,125, but with that you get, I mean, they tried claiming that they'd replaced 2 brackets for the cameras I damaged. Now, I didn't damage the brackets, and the police took photographs of the brackets, and 6 months later the brackets were still the same brackets. They still had the same paint on them, they still had the same marks on them, so they hadn't replaced them. But I mean, in total, it works out at about 8,125 for a camera install on a traffic light junction.
But all you did was damage the lens.
Not even the lens, Claire. It was just the plastic lens cover.
So one could possibly say or argue that they knowingly knew that it was only going to cost £3,000 for two cameras, and yet they thought that they would get away with 16,000 to make that extra money. So that
and of course get a tougher sentence, because once it's over £5,000, it takes it from magistrates to Crown Court.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not going to condone the fact that you damaged a camera, and we'll move on to why you damaged that camera. But you're being tried in court for obviously committing a crime. But at the same time, it would be perceived that TfL are also committing a crime of fraud and perjury within the courts to try and make extra money back. But at the same time, leaving you with a tougher sentence, possibly a prison sentence, and ruin your life.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that much. I mean, even painting of a camera lens, I believe, is just a bit of cleaning fluid and wipe clean. And yet your sentence for that would be more than, say, for graffitiing in a bus stop.
Yeah.
Or a wall or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
We are just going to stop there because I have actually got to go to an advert where we will be seeing another one of our shows, which is Tim Scott Uncancelled. And that was Tim Scott with Uncancelled, another one of the shows you can see here on Unprecedented. And I'm here talking with Phil, known as Fan Hunter. That's what I always knew you as, actually, was Fan Hunter.
I became Fan Hunter, Phil, very quickly. When I met Matt said, get on TikTok. He said, I'll plug you, I'll get you enough followers. And within 2 or 3 days, I had enough followers to go live. And I was then Fan Hunter Phil. The guy with the hat.
What pushed you personally to decide to damage the cameras?
Frustration. It was, we pinned our hopes on him not getting re-elected, and he got re-elected on, I believe, 18% of the vote, which is very little. But because, so many candidates and so many people not voting, 18% was enough to get him back in office. And I was frustrated. It was very soon after the election that I got arrested.
Because I think I've always said that the way I can understand it and justify it is, the simple fact is, it has ruined so many people's lives, just ULEZ.
Well, the way I looked at it, when ULEZ first started and that 86-year-old man died, the way I looked at it was the same amount of people had died because of ULEZ as the reason for ULEZ.
And actually, trying to base it all on air quality when, we've all said this a million times, and I don't think you can't keep saying it, the tubes.
No. Yeah, the tubes, they're awful. I avoid the tubes as much as possible. They're just awful. You come out of there and blow your nose and it's just black soot.
Yeah. And readings have been done. And, it, in my opinion, it comes down to common sense. And some people just don't want to see that actually it makes no sense whatsoever. No. And I think, like you, there was probably many other people, because this whole thing about conspiracy and, people talk about the Bladerunners like it's some kind of organization. But the way I saw it was that it was individual people at different times, as when ULEZ came in, that reached their breaking point. And it was like, this is a tax on the poor. It's a scam. It's unjust. It's unfair. It's the public consultation. Probably 80 to 90% of people in Greater London were against it. And I think people just reached breaking point, really.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know people that live outside the zone but worked in the zone, and they didn't get a say in the consultation.
well, exactly, and it obviously has affected a lot of the people that were outside the zone. And I know, where I live, a lot of local businesses, your car could be compliant and you could drive around, but if you had a local business, it stopped a lot of people now coming into the zone to spend money. So it affected their business anyway.
Yeah.
And people don't look at the wider picture of how much it actually affected people.
Mm.
And as I say, like you had a breaking point. You went out and stopped the camera fans and blocked them, and then obviously, through absolute sheer desperation, I think.
Yeah. I mean, once the vans went, it was right. We're still not stopping this by just getting rid of the vans. That was one of the problems. But and that was why I went on to do what I did. I was frustrated. I was annoyed. I just felt it was such an unjust system for something that they said was for clean air, and it wasn't. Never about clean air.
No, and there's been another case just recently that was in the papers, which I think people remember it as being the Sid Cup bomb. Do you remember that? It was
Yeah.
I believe. And he's just obviously been found guilty on a 2-week trial for damaging a box. But there was two individual people involved in that, I believe.
Yeah.
One actually went earlier in the day and cut the camera down, and he later in the day, apparently, he pleaded not guilty, and did damage the box, which kind of doesn't make sense because the camera was already down. So but we found with that TfL were claiming for damages for both. So the total damage costs for both the camera, the pole, and the box, they were claiming those damages in both court cases.
Yeah.
Which is
surprise me.
which is exactly what they did with you. And this is one of those boxes, isn't there?
That is one of those boxes. Apparently that one was run over, apparently.
Run over?
Yes, yeah. Somebody ran it over.
Well, then you've got the whole other side of it, the legal side, where obviously we still see the security, where we legally block the installs of these electrical boxes. And you could probably explain what they are a bit better than I can.
Well, the boxes get damaged beyond repair. They have been set on fire. They've been pulled out of the ground. They've been kicked over. UK power networks have to come out and disconnect them, and of course, then consequently, the TfL need a permit to reinstall it. Yeah. And I'm quite happy to admit I'm one of the ones that will go and sit at that box all day and stop them installing it again. So
we outside of where I live, we have a few of them, but in Biggin Hill, they never ever even managed to get the boxes in the first place. So for a long time, we had permit sites, on the side of the pavement, where they wanted to come and actually put one in. But because we knew that's what they were coming to do, we'd just stand there and drink tea and coffee.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it's been a combination of both, really, hasn't it? That I think has kind of kept it at bay. Because how many cameras have you actually got in and around your area?
A lot less than there should be. I mean, Harefield is completely ULEZ free.
Right.
So that's a good result. There should be 9 cameras in Harefield, and there's none. There's no signs, no cameras. I can get from my home to the A40 without going through any ULEZ cameras.
Wow, that's kind of similar to what it's like down here, and that's actually most of that now. It's legal, isn't it?
I mean, we regularly have the police out to us. I mean, I've seen 3 police cars come out to me, sat at the box, stopping them installing. You know, and it's I was frustrated one day because I know of a 90-year-old man who'd rung the police.
People said
and
no.
told them that he thought someone was trying to break into his house, and it took them 48 hours to turn up.
Said no.
I think this is one of these videos playing of a camera.
No.
I think this is one of your videos that you took, actually.
Yeah.
Of a camera down.
Well,
what was it you were actually saying there?
Well, Mr. Mayor.
I was just saying that Sadiq Khan.
For you in Hillingdon. People don't like it in Hillingdon. People said no. You did it anyway. Oh well. People are still saying no.
I think that was a clear message.
Yeah. So that was just down the road from me. So.
Well, that's the thing. The people did say no, and they went against the public consultation, which, you know, it kind of makes you feel, do we actually even live in a democracy anymore?
Yeah. I mean, the people said no, and he did it anyway. You know, what was the point in the consultation? He bought the cameras before he did the consultation, Claire.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe actually all he did was just implement it, but it goes back to the Conservatives and it goes back to Boris Johnson.
Yeah, but Boris Johnson didn't implement it. You know, he looked at it, but Sadiq Khan, and then he expanded it.
I was to say Sadiq Khan's ULEZ expansion. Bromley Council measured no overall lowering and expended the £12.50 daily charge zone last year. That was in September 2024. Yeah. I mean, you know, you've only got to watch him in the GLA to see that he lies about absolutely everything. He doesn't want to answer questions. He didn't want to. I mean, Thomas Turrell, who is a Conservative GLA member for here, he actually wanted proper vetting of the security after all the assaults. And they basically voted against it. He asked for a proper complaints procedure because you can't even go through the SIA, and especially if they're not wearing their SIA badges, how can you even make a complaint because you don't know who you're making a complaint against? So they always knew they were protected, and they voted against it. Yeah, it was just, as I say, a narrative constantly being pushed out that people like you are dangerous protesters, even myself. And yet the people that are actually representing TfL are probably committing more crimes than the likes of you and people like you.
Yeah.
You know, and going back to what you were saying about, you know, the police being called out. I mean, you also stand at the side of the road and stop, I say stop installs, but no one turns up, do they?
No, they won't come near me. I'm a bit of a thorn in the side of the security, so they won't come anywhere near me. James won't come to Hillingdon now because of me. So
I must admit, I haven't seen him for a long time. It's been a very long time. Adam, yes, Adam.
We must stop calling him James, start calling him Adam.
Well, I think he's become famous for being called James now, hasn't he? Because he did get made famous, let's be honest.
In one of Matt's videos that we did, we were behind the ban at Ladygate Lane. We were there for 8 hours, and somebody on the live commented that his name was Adam, and it just got brushed to one side, you know, and then Big Bill called him James, and that was where we got his name, James. So
do you remember when all of them got called David?
Yeah, that was a standing joke. We had stickers with, oh, who's this? Oh, it's David. Yeah, I remember that.
Because, you know, who in that position would get away with their family brothers? They're not going to do it.
TfL have never been back and put cameras on that junction, oddly enough.
Really?
No, nor that junction.
I mean,
I think telling the traffic light people got a bit peed off with it, and they said to them, look, if it happens too many times, you're not putting the cameras back. So, because we've got a couple of junctions in Hillingdon where there is now no cameras. My road hasn't got any cameras on it. The last camera to go up on my road was put up at 1 p.m. and cut down at 4 p.m.
Wow, that quick.
Yeah, that quick.
See, this is what I don't think they realised quite how big the pushback was going to be across the board. You know, between Bladerunners, you know, just people going out and cutting them, between people obviously blocking the camera vans, to people stopping the installs of freestanding cameras going in, which is completely legal. And we're 2.5 years down the line. I don't know anything that's had quite a bigger pushback in such direct action.
No.
Do you?
No, I've never seen anything like it. And from the bottom of my heart, Claire, I'm not giving up.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the back of my pickup truck. That picture, that was the sign I did when I first started in ULEZ. The police told me to take that down, and I said, "Are you telling me to?" He said, "I'm asking you to." So they made me take it off.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you actually breaking the law there or something?
He said if somebody takes offence to it, it then becomes a criminal offence.
Right.
So, and I said, has anybody complained about it? And he said, no, but they could.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the response from police is quite mixed. I mean, I see the police all the time because, as we know, you know, standing on the side of the road, it's local residents, by the way, in those areas, standing by the side of the road, drinking tea and coffee on a pavement, don't see anyone. Sometimes you might see security, but what you will see is security will call police, get police attend. And as you were saying earlier, you know, we see it all the time, the constant wasting of police time.
Yeah.
When crime rates going up, you know, other things they could be investigating. So that's angering the public. But also when they turn up, the response is generally quite good, isn't it? I mean, you had an experience with the police, wasn't it, where they were kind of thanking you, I think, weren't they?
I mean, after I'd gone through the courts, I went back to Acton police station to get my phone back. They'd had my phone for nearly a year. They took my phone off me and my jacket when I got arrested. When the guy gave me my phone back, the policeman said to me, he said, you did well. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, all I'm going to say is you did well.
Yeah.
And that was a serving policeman at Acton police station.
Wow. Yeah, I do think it is very much mixed response with the police. And unfortunately, they're Cairns police, aren't they? They're Met police. I've always said they're owned, they're used politically, financially, and personally. And we know that because Sadiq Khan used the Met Police to escort Taylor Swift from a concert. They're used every single time to turn up to ULEZ. Where they know that there's absolutely no trouble. As you said, has anyone ever actually been threatened as far as you're concerned?
Never. I've never threatened anybody. I've only ever had run-ins with the security. Yeah.
The same. And I think across the board, I think a lot of people would say that it's always been the security, the contractors. A lot of the contractors said that the security would make it worse. They never actually felt threatened, that they had no problem with us. I would definitely say there's a narrative being pushed to make people like yourselves and myself as, you know, extremists and dangerous.
Well, that's why I'm labelled as a Blade Runner. You know, a Blade Runner isn't necessarily somebody that's gone out and cut one down. It just seems to be anybody that's fighting ULEZ is labelled as a Blade Runner.
Yeah, there definitely is an overlap, because that's what I've always kind of been concerned about. That, you know, I've said to the police that, you know, we have people here that are in their 80s and they live just down the road and they feel that strongly about it. that they're happy to stand, you know, on the side of the road with tea and coffee and donuts sometimes and biscuits and have a chat. And actually they find it it kind of gets them out. They like to, you know, have the gathering and the chat and the conversation. And I think they're trying to push this illusion that we're like stand up to racism or stop oil or something like that. You know? Look, the vandalism is thought to have happened near the Swan and Mitre. What's this tree? Is it a tree lopper?
Yeah, that was one of the very first videos I saw, you know, where the guy, he just walked up to the traffic lights outside a pub and they were all sat in the pub garden and this guy just walked up and reached up and cut the cable and walked off.
I'll tell you why I'm laughing, because it's Bromley area, which is right near me, and I didn't even know anything about this. I mean, not that I know about everything, but I try and keep my eyes open to see what's going on and know what you know what's happening, especially when it comes to TfL. You know, because I would say that out of the two, they're probably the biggest criminals, you know. And and I think people don't realise as well that ULEZ, you know, with the 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, LTNs, and all of that. I mean, how often do you start to venture into London a bit just to see how difficult it is to drive around?
I won't take my vehicle into London anymore. When they expanded the ULEZ the first time out to the North and South Circular, I respected that. You know, I get it. City centres, they can become a bit choked up. So I respected it. But when they expanded it out to the M25, that was it for me.
Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people felt. And I think a lot of people are not realising that it is all connected. I mean, we've got facial recognition cameras going up everywhere. You know, you've got ULEZ. We believe it's going to be essentially for state surveillance, 15 minutes. And I say, along with the LTNs and 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, it's impossible to drive anywhere the closer you get to London. And, you know, you can be inadvertently diverted down an LTN or a one-way street.
Or into the ULEZ. I so regularly see that people have been diverted off the motorway into the ULEZ zone. And the first they know about it is when they get the fine through 4 days later.
Yeah, and that's another thing. TfL said that if there was a planned diversion that would take people into the ULEZ, that was done by highways, they actually claim that the cameras are turned off. Well, we know for a fact that's not true. So that's another lie. But they also said that nobody would get fined or they'd get reimbursed. And the stories that, you know, people are absolutely struggling to even get a fine overturned. You know, it just... they're making it so difficult for people. Absolutely, you know, impossible. That I think just financially, they're just crippling everyone, really.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And
not actually increasing public transport.
No, I mean, I very rarely go on the tube unless I absolutely have to. I had to go to Walworth police station, which is by Elephant and Castle. And I got there and the policeman had left a note at reception saying that, sorry, I couldn't make it, come to Kingston tomorrow. So I had to go to Kingston then. But that, you know, other than that, I very rarely go in on the tube. I don't like it.
Well, we have actually run out of time, but I think you've made a point there that, you know, you won't use certain transport, you don't travel into London with your van, and it does feel that it is very much about restricting people's movements through their own personal circumstances. And I can't believe we've run out of time.
I was enjoying that.
I know, there's so much we could talk about with this.
I know we our paths have crossed occasionally, but this is the first time we've ever been able to sit and have a proper chat.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably have to do it again and move on and get into details with some of the things, some stories about security, because there's some funny ones that we can share.
Definitely.
Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
All right.
So I want to say thank you to Phil for coming on today's show and for being willing to speak openly about his experience. Whatever people think about ULEZ or the actions he took, it's important that these stories are heard directly, not filtered, not caricatured, and not reduced to a headline. This conversation isn't about telling anyone what to think. It's about understanding the human reality behind protest, the pressures that led people to take the risks like Phil did, and the consequences that unfortunately follow when ordinary individuals challenge policy and power. So I thank Phil for his honesty, his time, and for being prepared to put his name and story out there. So if you care about civil liberties, about the right to protest, about who really holds power and who pays the price when that power is challenged, then these conversations really do matter. This is why you should be watching Dire Consequences, not for easy answers, not for comfortable narratives, but for the truth in all its complexity, the kind that doesn't fit neatly into a headline or a government press release. And more importantly, make sure you like, follow and subscribe to Unprecedented TV, because the only way we can continue to bring you the stories that they don't want you to hear, the voices they would rather silence, and the information they hope you never question is with your support. So please do follow us. Thank you. And I'm Claire Dyer, and this is Dire Consequences.